Alright, so this is the second installment of the tutorial on how to use the Monopoly Simulator. It's also the second version of the Monopoly Simulator. I should probably start adding version numbers on the web page. Speaking of the web page here, I will be adding some links for the going forward over the next few days to help, I guess, add some navigation, some explanation, a little bit of navigation, and just a little bit of the ideas behind the simulator, a little bit of a how-to maybe, in addition to just these videos, to kind of make the experience a little more intuitive, I suppose. I'm also going to be adding some more restrictions and checking on the inputs so that it's not such a frustrating experience when putting in the settings for a game. Also, to be able to go back and forth and reset a position, maybe load an older position. These are all things that I have in mind going forward. For now, most of the work I've put in over the past week revolves around being able to play back a sample game. So again, when we generate the win percentages, and as we did in the previous video, it's based on about 10,000 iterations of a game, starting at the position that is set by the user, by you guys, and it gives an idea of which player has a better chance of winning. But that said, it's one thing to take a number on its word or on face value. It's another thing to be able to see a sample of how the number was created. So that's exactly what get sample game will do. So without further ado, let's move ahead here and let's try to create an interesting endgame scenario. So let's give both players $1,200, and let's give player 1 the greens unmortgaged, and the second half of the board, the rest of the second half of the board, in a mortgage state. Again, I do this strictly to emphasize the differential between the two property groups. I want to take buying properties out of the equation, other rents out of the equation. The goal of this is to really see how two different color groups basically compete against one another. So remember, it's very important to always select a build strategy, even if you don't know what it is. If you don't know, just put smart aggressive, unless it's the light blues or the purples, in which case you should put hyper aggressive. In this case, the priority group for player 1 are the greens. Player 2, let's give him or her the oranges, the beloved oranges, and the rest of the board in mortgage state. So again, the other properties will not really come into play. Let's keep the gel stays long, by the way. And in this case, the build strategy will be, again, smart aggressive for the oranges. Finally, last but not least, do not forget this step or it won't work at all. You have to put the tokens somewhere. So let's put player 1's token on New York. That way it's pretty much one of the safest places on the board for him right now in terms of short-term survival rate. He has to come all the way around the board. And let's do the same thing for player 2. Let's put player 2 on Pennsylvania. So kind of making it as interesting as possible. So again, we can calculate the win percentages, and this part should really never take more than 30 seconds, even in the basically worst case scenario, and it's usually much quicker than that as it is here. So you can see the mighty oranges are almost a 70-30 favorite over the greens, so prove it. Okay, let's get a sample game. Now, this is the part I'm excited to show. As you can see, once getting the sample game, the website will let you know that it's loaded. It actually loads all the moves ahead of time and changes the header up here. It gives a timestamp, and it has a turn number, the turn number representing both moves by both players. So no matter how many doubles they get or whatever, player 1 goes, hands the dice off to player 2, who goes, hands the dice back to player 1. That was a turn. So that's how the turn. So it just gives an idea of how long these games can go. There are two buttons here, as you can see, next action and auto action. If we click next action, that's kind of just almost going through one picture at a time, so to speak, one frame at a time. So in this case, I hit next action. Player 1 rolls a 5 from New York, lands on Illinois. Since it's mortgaged, no exchange of money takes place. And when I click next action again, you can see the arrow here goes to player 2, who rolls a 9. Player 2 ends up on Baltic, receives 200 from Go, which is why his money now reflects 1400. Doesn't have to owe any rent because Baltic is mortgaged. In fact, he owns Baltic anyway, and so forth. So without clicking and hurting my finger, let's go ahead and watch the auto action. It's, I don't know, I kind of get a kick out of it. Here we go. So I have about a half a second to a second delay in between the moves. So you can see here that player 1, I mean, I still have trouble following it sometimes, I'm not going to lie. So we see player 2 was the first victim and had to sell houses. Player 1 then landed on player 2, who immediately rebuilt. And player 2, oh, there we go. Player 1 hit player 2 again. 3 houses on Pennsylvania will do it. And player 2 is bankrupt, and player 1 wins. And that's the end of the simulation. So $1,000, obviously. So this box here has a log of the moves that were made. Obviously, that went very quickly, but you can kind of see that even if we clicked next action one step at a time, you can very slowly go through the game to see what happened at every step. And in this case, the Greens won, despite being an underdog. And that's what it is in Monopoly, just like any other game involving short-term luck, like poker. You can be a 70 to 30 favorite and still lose, but that's really the whole essence of the simulator, is that you can lose a game, but then when you're going back over it, you can really get a sense of, okay, maybe I lost, but guess what? I was the favorite. And you have to kind of just tip your hat and pat yourself on the back and say, you know what? I had the better of it and I lost, but I did the best I could. Anyway, that's pretty much it for now. Hope you guys enjoyed it. I know the simulator runs pretty quickly, but I really welcome all you guys to use it, have fun with it, and please, please let me know, not if, when you find any mistakes with it. So until next time, Monopoly Nerd out.